When a lone cowboy hears the desperate cries of two Apache girls hidden in a ravine, he rides straight into danger, only to discover that saving them will lead him to the one woman capable of healing the loneliness he's carried his whole life. The sun hung large and low above the far edge of the desert, turning the sand into copper and the sky into a great sheet of quiet fire. The wind was soft that evening, brushing through the yucca plants and stirring the dust across the open land in slow, gentle breaths. A lone cowboy rode through that peaceful hush, guiding his horse along a narrow, winding trail where the land dipped into hollows and rose again into rolling ridges. His name was Carter Hale, and though he had ridden these lands for years, he had never felt them so strangely restless as he did that day. There was an uncertain stillness in the air, the kind that makes a man watch the horizon more than usual. He could not have known then that the course of his life, as straight and simple as a well-cut trail, was about to fold into a shape he never expected. Carter was not much for words. Folks who met him said he carried a quiet kindness in his eyes and a steadfastness in his posture, like a man who had learned long ago how to stand up to storms without shouting at the sky. He lived simply, rode honestly, and worked with a heart that had never once sought praise. But there was something empty inside him, something like an unanswered question or a song with its ending missing. He'd never quite known what that void was, only that each time he rode alone across the plains, it seemed to whisper that he was meant for something more than his solitary life. The wind shifted sharply, carrying with it the distant echo of something that did not belong to the desert. Carter pulled up on his reins, leaning forward, listening. It came again, faint, thin, but unmistakably human. A cry. Without hesitation, he urged his horse toward the sound. He rode fast, the ground rushing beneath him, the cry sharpening into desperate voices, trembling and rising again. It did not take long to reach the source. Down in a narrow ravine, half hidden by brush and stone, he found two young Apache girls huddled together. They could not have been more than 12 and 14. Their long dark hair was tangled, their cheeks streaked with tears and dust. One of them clutched her leg, and even from above, Carter could see the swelling. The other girl stood protectively between her sister and the open ravine, but her eyes were wide with fear. Carter raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. He called down to them calmly, letting his voice carry warmth, not authority. "I'm not here to trouble you," he said. "Just tell me if you're hurt." The older girl hesitated. Her gaze darted toward the trail behind him, as if fearful of pursuers. When she finally spoke, her voice shook. "Our mother, she fell. We can't move her. Men came. We hid. Please help." That was all Carter needed. He climbed down into the ravine carefully, moving slow enough for the girls to read each step he took. They led him deeper into the hollow, where he found their mother lying against a slanted rock. Her ankle was twisted, swollen, and bruised badly, and her breathing was shallow but steady. She lifted her eyes when Carter approached, dark, wary eyes filled with both strength and exhaustion. "I'm Carter Hale," he said gently. "Your girls asked me to help." She stared at him long enough for him to feel the weight of her judgment. Then she nodded once, a gesture filled with dignity even in pain. "I am Naylin," she said softly. "My daughters are Yana and Kimmy. We were gathering herbs. Men from far east lands approached. They shouted. We ran. They followed. We hid here." Carter felt a slow anger heat his chest. These lands had grown harder in recent years. Outsiders, drifters, and fortune-seekers showed little respect for the people who had lived here long before any settlements appeared. "You're safe now," he said. "I'll get you out." But the climb was difficult, and Naylin could not walk on her injured ankle. Carter fashioned a support from his saddle straps, wrapped her ankle carefully, lifted her onto his horse, and guided the girls beside him as they made their way toward his small cabin several miles away. The sun had nearly slipped behind the ridges by the time they arrived, and the sky had darkened into deep blue streaked with silver clouds. Inside the cabin, Carter wasted no time preparing blankets and water. He stoked a fire to chase away the chill of evening. Naylin watched him quietly, her face unreadable but alert. Her daughters stayed close to her, though their trembling eased as the warmth of the cabin wrapped around them. For several days, Naylin and her daughters remained under Carter's care. He tended Naylin's ankle, cooked simple meals, fetched water, and repaired small things around the cabin to distract the girls from thinking about the terror they had escaped. The girls slowly eased into comfort, Yana with her bold curiosity, Kimmy with a cautious softness that made Carter smile every time she offered him shy thanks. Naylin remained reserved at first, speaking only when needed, but every so often Carter caught her watching him with a contemplative expression. It was not suspicion anymore. It was something deeper, something like gratitude wrapped in unspoken questions. One evening, long after the girls had fallen asleep, Carter stepped outside to sit beneath the fading twilight. The desert was peaceful again, the sky stretching endlessly above him. He heard the soft rustle of the cabin door as Naylin stepped outside. She moved slowly, her ankle improving but still tender. "You should be resting," Carter said quietly. "I rest plenty," she replied. Her voice held a gentle firmness that made him smile. She took a seat on a flat rock beside him. "My daughters tell me you watched over them every hour." "Anyone would," Carter muttered. "Not anyone," Naylin corrected. "Some would have left us in the ravine, some would have questioned our worth, but you did not." She looked at him with a warmth he had not earned, but desperately hoped he could be worthy of. "Why?" Her question struck him deeper than he expected. He swallowed, staring into the distance. "Because it was right," he finally said, "and maybe because I've been alone for a long time. Helping people makes a man remember what he's got to give." Naylin's expression softened. "Loneliness is a heavy thing," she said, "even for strong men." Her words lingered in the air like a gentle echo. Carter felt something stir inside him, something akin to that missing ending of a song he had carried inside his heart for years. Days passed. Naylin's ankle healed enough for her to walk. The girls regained their laughter, filling the cabin with the kind of joy Carter had never realized he was starved for. He found himself waking in the mornings eager to hear their chatter, to see Naylin's quiet smile as she prepared herbal teas from the small bundle of plants she had saved. Naylin, for her part, began to sense the shape of Carter's loneliness. She saw the way he lingered near the girls when they spoke, how he softened when they laughed. And she saw the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, gentle, respectful, with a tenderness he never allowed himself to voice. One afternoon, while Kimmy and Ayana played near the riverbank behind the cabin, Naylin asked Carter to walk with her. They moved slowly, her steps still careful on the uneven ground. The river shimmered with sunlight, and the soft murmur of water filled the spaces between their words. "You have been kind beyond measure," Naylin began. "My daughters trust you. That is not something they give easily." "I'm glad," Carter said, watching the river. "They deserve to feel safe." "And you," Naylin continued, turning to face him, "deserve not to walk alone." Carter's breath caught. He looked at her, truly looked, and saw the strength of a woman who had braved storms far fiercer than anything he'd known. He also saw the beginnings of a quiet affection that warmed her gaze. "I don't know what future you want," Carter said softly. "I don't know what your path is, but I care for you, and for the girls." Naylin stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then speak your heart, Cowboy, not with fear." He hesitated only a moment before lifting her hand gently into his. "I want you to stay," he said, "not because you need my help, not because you owe me anything, but because I haven't felt this alive in years, and maybe, if it's in your heart, I'd like to build something real with you." Naylin's eyes shone, not with tears, but with a depth of emotion that went beyond gratitude. "Carter Hale," she murmured, "you have saved my daughters' lives, but more than that, you have given them hope. You have given me hope. I cannot promise where the wind will take us, but today, in this moment, my heart is not far from yours." He exhaled, feeling a weight lift from him, feeling something new fill its place, something bright and warm. Days turned to weeks. Naylin and her daughters stayed with Carter longer than any of them first expected. They helped repair the cabin, tended the small garden, and filled the quiet valley around his home with conversation and laughter. The girls grew bold and confident, learning from Carter how to ride horses and from their mother how to gather herbs and read the desert signs. Carter, in turn, learned more about the spirit of the land from Naylin than he had learned in all his years alone. She showed him how to listen to the wind, how to read the shifting colors of the sky, how to understand that the desert was alive with stories older than any road or settlement. He found himself falling deeper in love, not just with her, but with the life they were slowly building together. One night after the girls had drifted to sleep, Carter and Nayland sat by the fire in the quiet cabin. The glow lit her face softly, casting shadows beneath her eyes and tracing the lines of her gentle strength. "Are you afraid of the future?" Carter asked. Nayland leaned her shoulder lightly against his. "Only of losing what I have found," she whispered. He turned toward her, lifting her hand again. "Then stay," he said with a firmness wrapped in tenderness. "Stay with me. Let's make a life that no storm can scatter." Her answer was a quiet breath that trembled with emotion. "I will stay," she said, "for as long as the land allows, and for as long as our hearts choose the same path." Over the next few months, the bond between them deepened. Carter was no longer a lone cowboy wandering empty trails. He became protector, companion, teacher, partner. The girls looked up to him with admiration and affection, calling him the steady one, while Nayland looked at him with love that needed no words. One early morning, as the sun rose and painted the desert in pale gold, Carter stepped out of the cabin to find Nayland standing by the river. Her hair moved gently with the breeze, and the still water reflected the soft glow of dawn. He walked to her without speaking, standing close enough for their arms to touch. She looked at him and smiled, a smile deep with meaning. "Our journey has become one," she said, her voice filled with quiet certainty. Carter nodded slowly. "And I'll walk it with you for the rest of my days." In that moment, with the rising sun witnessing their vow, it was clear that something beautiful had taken root in the place where fear, loss, and loneliness once lived. The desert, vast and unending, had brought together a cowboy with a gentle heart and an Apache mother with unbreakable strength. It had shaped them, tested them, and finally entwined their lives together like threads woven into a single, enduring story. Carter knew then that the empty ache he had carried all his life was gone. In its place stood a love deeper than the desert itself, a love born not of chance, but of courage, kindness, and the simple miracle of finding one another when the world seemed vast and lonely. And so the cowboy, the mother, and her two daughters built a new life together, their hearts bound by the rescue that had brought them together and the love that would hold them forever. Their story stretched across the open land like a never-ending horizon, one of healing, trust, family, and the quiet, unwavering power of love.